Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me here today. We're going to continue a recent thread of conversations about the holy instant, which is the subject of chapter 15 of the text, and worth coming back to, as are all, frankly, of the subjects in A Course in Miracles, worth coming back to again and again. So, what's going on here in the world, and it is going on whether we choose to acknowledge and accept it or not, is that we think both gain and loss are possible. We think that it's possible to both win and lose, and we think that it's possible for us to be in competition with our brother. Our entire economic systems pit us against him, and they do. We're pitted against the so-called competition pretty much in every arena of life. And our sporting events where there is one team against another are simply an example of this. And our economic systems are an even bigger example of how we think our brother is separate from us, and he must be separate from us, and therefore he's out to get our stuff, including our professional reputation and all of that. So we think that we can both gain and lose, and we accept this. Therefore, we experience the wild roller coaster ride, the ups and downs of life, and we think that this is our lot. I mean, you might even find yourself thinking, well, this really sucks. And, well, I guess it's my lot in life to suffer. There's nothing I can do about it. Oh, but there is. There most certainly is. You could choose to study and practice this course. If you're considering this, you could choose to delve into this material. If you're a long-time student, you could revisit these ideas because it might be the 3,455th time that you hear the same idea that it really lands. You don't know. You could choose to do this course. A Course in Miracles, it quite naturally, it seems, draws a lot of attention in the spiritual arena. People have heard about it, or they've known somebody who has practiced the course or who has done the workbook once or studied it. It attracts quite a bit of attention with the title alone. A Course in Miracles. Well, who doesn't need some miracles in their life, right? So people are drawn to this. And, well, a number of people even buy the book where it remains unopened, placed upon a shelf for how many years? Maybe the Holy Spirit's telling you to go get that and open it up. Could be. Yeah, maybe it is. It's quite common for people to become very interested in this material and indeed start and then leave it for a period of time. So that may be your experience, perhaps not, but it becomes really clear really quickly that this is all about our power of decision and choice in the present moment, which should be something very happy I mean, it should. Ideally, you would think, oh man, I have full control of this. Yes, but all too often we become deeply afraid of this power of decision and choose not to exercise it. What I'm talking about is the power of decision that we all retain, whether you care to accept that you have this or not. Everyone has played the victim of life card in one way or another at some point in their lives. Perhaps you're playing it right now, or perhaps you're one who chronically says, poor me. This course may very well be fundamentally different from anything that you've ever experienced, and that's a good thing. It's a course in mind training, and we accept along the way that we're responsible for our own thought and our own experience. Everything that appears to be coming at us in the world is, in fact, coming from us, not at us. It's taking place in our mind. This is a course in changing your mind. And it all, always, without exception, comes down to a present moment decision for exactly one of two options: love or fear, God or the ego, life or death, truth or illusion, light or dark. That choice. If you choose not to choose, that's choosing darkness. It's choosing more of the same, isn't it? And it is very much your choice. It is our choice to go off and run and hide, or put this down and go off and do something else, which is absolutely fine. Plenty of people come back to this material months or even years later. This video is the Holy Spirit speaking to you. So, what is He communicating to you? Only you would know that. So, in each and every video, there's a message for every single person that is called to turn this series of videos and this channel on for whatever reason. And you may not even know exactly what that is. You may be scrolling YouTube and all of a sudden this Course in Miracles thing pops up and this pixelated image on your screen that resembles a middle-aged man from Arizona pops up talking about things that somehow resonate. Well, it's no secret why. There is one mind. So let's let our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, who is part of this mind, let's let him run the show. See what happens. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Here we think gain and loss are both possible. In other words, we want to use the proverbial saying, we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want it both ways. In other words, we want to experience the peace of God, but we also want to reserve special forms of love and hatred for ourselves to the exclusion of other people. The hatred is a very, very prominent example where we love certain people and we have no problem with that. Yet we reserve our special little disdain, judgment, and hatred for someone else. This is the example of politics that I continually use. It is a perfect example of the ego at play. It's a perfect example, no matter where you live in the world or whatever your political persuasion is, if any. This is a classic, real life example only it's not our real life. But while it appears to be, people have no problem loving on 99% of the global population and reserving their special hatred for the rest of them, the opposition party. Did you hear what those guys did today? Did you see what they're trying to do now? How could they? For example, so we think that gain and loss are both possible because we want to keep that specialness. We want to keep the loss. Well, are you ready to let that go? Your inner teacher is asking you, not just right now, always, are you willing to let that go? Are you willing to set aside the veil of time and see things exactly as they are right now? When else? There is no other time. Are you ready to do this? And only you can answer this. This conversation about our own willingness is one that we find, you may find it horribly and completely annoying. And that's all right if you do. But it's one that's oh so important, isn't it? Because it is our moment to moment decision that matters. And so what if you decided in favor of the ego even 15 minutes ago and you lashed out and blamed somebody, even in your mind? You took a look at your social media feed to see people's political rants and judged them. Yeah, well, it's common enough. That was the past. It's gone. You have an opportunity to forgive right now. Oh, and the recipient of your forgiveness does not need to know that you're doing it. It's all in the mind. You don't have to call somebody. You don't have to email them. You don't have to send them a text or sit down for a 4.5 hour tear jerking, tell all kind of conversation where you bawl your eyes out and bare your soul. That is not required. This is done in the mind. Forgive. Anything that is not wholly joyous in your experience is an opportunity for true forgiveness. Anything. So we bring a present moment awareness to bear. So we recognize when we're carried off in judgment and damnation and vindication and blame. I mean, have you ever thought of your Facebook feed, for example, as an opportunity for forgiveness when people post things that rankle, that's what it is. Anything not wholly joyous. So we bring our willingness, and it's worth cultivating this willingness. The Holy Spirit tells us that that's all he needs is our little willingness to listen to his guidance. So this is a heartfelt invitation, and it's so, so important. Hence the repetition. By the way, if you're new to this channel, welcome. This course says the same things over and over again. I mean, what spiritual tradition doesn't? They all do. We need this as adult learners. So over the course of 15 or 20 minutes, every time this camera and microphone comes on, something will land with you. It doesn't mean that it has to land beautifully and produce an instantaneous aha moment. I mean, if you're not having that right now, don't worry about that. Something has really connected, even if it was like getting slapped. It may feel like that, but the Holy Spirit is not vindictive. The Holy Spirit is not mean, and he is rather loving and patient. So if it feels like a wake-up call, consider that this wake-up call was delivered with love, whatever that may have been for you. There's always a message for each and every one of us. So we're invited to bring this willingness. We're invited to set the veil aside. This image of a veil is one that you may find incredibly helpful. I have always found in my own practice that this image is of particular use. We draw a veil over our face and see the interior of a dark cloth and think that's reality. It is not. All of spiritual practice, this entire course, is about lifting the veil and setting it aside and seeing things as they really are. Then, and only then, can truth dawn of itself. That's awakening. When truth dawns of itself, we have to remove the veil. And yes, our adult responsibility is to remove it ourselves, yet we're not alone and powerless. You have many, many helpers, not the least of which, in fact, the most important of which is your inner teacher, the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Call it whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it by multiple names and call it a council or a team or a board of directors, do just that. It makes no difference what name you place upon it. It's part, and it's an it for sure, it's part of our mind. Call on it. It's always there and always speaking to you. The question, are you listening? So I thank you very much for taking the time out today in the midst of your busy life to listen to the message of the Holy Spirit. It's oh so important. And whatever that is, we would all very, very much do well to follow this guidance. Okay. So, to the extent that questions arise, I do want to invite you to ask them. First and foremost, in terms of guidance, is the guidance of your inner teacher. And I'm also here to serve as a guide. There are other pixelated images on your screen or writers that appear as this that are here to help and assist you along the way. So, to the extent that you have any questions, please feel welcome to leave them. And as I've done recently, in fact, with the most recent video about A Course in Miracles and the work world, I'm more than happy to devote a video or even more than one video to questions that are coming up for you live. So if you've got them, please ask them. If you have not subscribed, I want to invite you to do that. Do just that, please, today. This is the prompt in the corner of your screen. When you click that arrow, you'll be invited to join us. So please do that, and I will see you again very soon. Thank you, as always, for joining me.